Okay, well, check this out. Now, first of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm going to take them as disrespect.
Oh, that's what the Giants hope the rest of the league is not doing to them. Disrespecting the New York Football Giants. This is Tim's New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC, and part, of course, the Believe Network. Want to talk about the first day of mandatory minicamp. Want to talk a little bit about Malik Nabers. Want to talk about what the press was asking the likes of Kayvon Thibodeau, Jameis Winston, and, of course, Brian Daboll. The most notable thing, I think, right now in minicamp is the absence, of course, of Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers has that secret toe injury. We don't know what the toe injury is because it's a secret, which I'm fine with. I don't care. As long as he's ready for the season, I don't give a fuck. Because it's OTAs. It's mandatory minicamp. You know, you start getting towards the end of the training camp and he's still not 100% because of the toe, then I might have some issues. But right now, like I said, it's mandatory minicamp. He's not participating. That's fine. I'm not concerned about it yet until we get a little bit closer into July, get into training camp, and then we can worry about having some issues. But like I said, right now, you know, if you want to say the only issue right now, a little bugaboo that we got going on right now is the Malik Nabers injury. So, evidently he's had it since college. What does that mean? I don't know, but he's had it since college. So I'm not going to sit here and worry. I'm not going to worry about it. You shouldn't worry about it either. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart evidently had a pretty good day today as well. Brian Daboll spoke about it briefly, so we're gonna pull up the Brian Daboll clip on Jackson Dart himself. So let's take a listen to Jackson Dart.
How would you describe how Jackson has handled everything this spring and how he's done?
Yeah, he's done excellent. He's picking up information. It's really good to have Russ and Jameis and even Tommy, because Tommy's been in this system for a few years here, and he's kind of the head statesman in terms of that and all the adjustments that take place or the calls. He's fit right in with those guys. He's smart. He's aggressive with the football, which I like.
Smart and aggressive. Before we had a quarterback, I don't know his name, but he was stupid and timid. But let's keep going.
And then, the true test will be once we start and there's live hitting and preseason games and things like that. But he's progressed, since he's been here to where he's not. He's made good improvement.
That's what you want to hear, that he's made good improvement. And even Daboll has this thought process and philosophy of the fact that, we're not doing anything. You saw this one highlight play where he was in the pocket, nobody was open. He rolled out to the left. He threw a pass on the run to the corner of the end zone. He threw it kind of high, but he threw it on the run. Everyone was like, "Oh!" I was like sitting there counting. I don't think you're gonna have 7, 8 seconds, 9 seconds in the pocket. So you're gonna have to make faster decisions. You're gonna have to think quicker on the move. But to Daboll's point, there's no hitting, there's no contact, there's no aggressiveness of the defense. So as long as he's learning what he needs to learn now, then that's what you want to see. You want to see progress. And that's what, that's what it is at the end of the day. Now, talking about progress, the other thing you want to see progress about is Evan Neal and his move over to guard. So let's hold on. Let's see what we got to hear about Evan Neal.
How has Evan looked so far, just through up to the OTAs and catching that pass, but just how has he looked so far just transitioning, in your opinion?
Yeah, he's done a nice job. He's picked up things well inside. Training camp will be a important time of the year for him, as for all the offensive linemen.
And again, training camp is going to be important. He's going to have to get into conditioning. He's going to have to learn communications with the guard, with the tackle in the center. There's a lot that's going to be going on. But, like I said, Daboll, what I like about Daboll right now, I'm watching these videos, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, but we're not at Fat Daboll yet, but we're getting close. Now, you got to remember, Fat Daboll was the coach of the year. Skinny Daboll sucked. So let's load up on the pasta a little bit for Dabes. Maybe throw a couple Twinkies on top. Let's get him back to that mandatory weight that will allow us to have him have him be where he needs to be. We also had a chance to have finally some conversations, which I did not know that Russell Wilson had not had a full opportunity to do a press conference like this. So it's going to be interesting. So let's get Jameis Winston's perspective on sharing the same locker and the same locker room or being next to the same locker with Russell Wilson.
Is he a different kind of player when he has something to prove, do you think?
I believe that we all have something to prove to ourselves. The first story that Russ shared with me was his locker position. He's sitting in the same locker that he sat in when he won the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. So I think that gives some type of context of what it means to him. And every year, especially at the quarterback position, there's only one of us. So we have to approach that with a type of integrity and a type of responsibility that no one else has.
That's a good answer. You're so, and I've talked about this with James Williams before. You're so befuddled by Daniel Jones's answer sometimes that when someone comes out and speaks eloquently about something gives an actual thought about it. What Daniel Jones gave a press conference, first thing I always thought of was,
danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
I was just like, no, I don't even want to hear you speak anymore. Because I'm tired of you just taking. I always love it. I take full responsibility for how stupid I am. Jameis Winston gave a very eloquent answer about the locker room, about Russell Wilson, about being in the same spot. It's good to hear. And like I said, when you have when you have toast, dry white toast for years, and now you're finally getting a bagel with cream cheese, you're just like, shit, man, this is really good. Stat line, of course, from the day from the first minicamp, Russell Wilson was 9 for 13, 2 touchdowns. Jameis Winston, 9 for 11 and touchdowns. Russell Wilson, 9 for 13, 2 touchdowns. Jackson Dart, 9 for 11 and a touchdown. Jameis Winston, 7 for 13 and 2. Tommy DeVito with the big 0 for 1. Getting a lot of reps there, Tommy. Let's also hear from Kayvon Thibodeau about how he believes he could be a consistent double-digit sack guy. I'm trying not to laugh because you know what? It's training camp. It's not a training camp. It's mandatory mini camp. So I'm just trying not to laugh.
Are there things that you go into this season believing that you haven't shown the league that you want to show about who you are as a player and who you've grown as a player?
Yeah, I think I'm a consistent double-digit sack guy, and I got to do that. It's been 3 years going on 4 now. It's been a lot of ups.
You had double-digit sacks in one season. That's okay.
Ups and downs in my career and, as a team. But I think this is a team that can win, and, I can help that.
He's another one. He's trying to be that constant professional, just like myself.
I agree. It's completely unprofessional, Dick.
Lou, can I ask you to please put out your cigarette?
No, I like to smoke when I drink.
Oh, it's like I said, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. You got a lot to listen to in reference to going into this camp. I mean, are we gonna find out anything that's gonna be shocking in these next couple days? No. But like I said, it's nice just see the guys get on the field. It's nice to have everyone in the house. It is what it is. And I'm excited that the Giants are moving forward. I'm seeing the Giants are having some responsibility and some players are taking responsibility in some actions, which I love to see in reference to, in reference to their play, such as Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. So that's great. Having the confidence over for Brian Burns, like I said, that's something you want to hear as well. So we just have to take all of this with a grain of salt. But like I said, it's going to get, don't get too hyped up about what's going on. Don't get too, don't get too down if something doesn't look right, because of the fact that this is just where we are, because it's still way freaking early. And I just love people that want to make so much out of this in July. And I've said this a million times before, and you've always heard this cliche. Everyone's undefeated in July. And that's where we're at. And like I said, if you want to have that attitude and have that personality, is something what you need. You want to have people, like I said, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson and everyone, and getting pumped up and getting ready to rock and roll. That's what you want. But at the end of the day, we have to just make sure we're keeping this all in perspective. And like I said, the biggest thing that I need to worry about is Malik Nabers. He's still, like I said, still sidelined with the toe injury. We also have to have some kind of look at Andrew Thomas as well, because we haven't seen Andrew Thomas in a while. So, like I said, but I don't care if Andrew Thomas isn't prepared to participate. You know, right now they're saying that he's rehabbing. Dable said Andrew Thomas is rehabbing. He's doing everything he can to get better. So we'll see when the time comes. I really view him as a player, a really good player for us, and he's doing a good job at rehab and getting closer to being back out there. That's what you want to hear. You know, is that coach speak? Fuck yeah, it is. Of course it's coach speak. But coach speak is what we need. You know, that's what you're going to hopefully expect from your head coach. So, you know, I want to play a little bit more of this Jameis Winston thing, because the Jameis Winston thing kind of amazes me. I like Jameis Winston as a personality, I think, more than I like him as a quarterback. But let's listen to this.
Jameis, when people talk about you when you were coming here and even throughout your career, the first thing they say is what a character, what a personality. Does that ever bother you that they want to talk about that first and not mention who you are as a football player? Or are you comfortable with that? And does that, you know, make you want to?
I'm grateful that I can bring joy to the game. I'm grateful that through my hard work and effort on the football field that people notice me by my character. So that's just something that comes with it. You know, this is the greatest game in the world. So we need to be able to, you know, drop our hair a little bit and notice that everyone has their own individual role. And I know what I've done.
Someone said to me when I sent this to him, they were like, "You only like it because of the fact that Jameis Winston was talking about hair." Hey-o.
In this NFL league, in terms of playing football, and I'm grateful that I had that experience. But I also know that when I first came into this league, that I wasn't looked upon as a man of high character. I wasn't looked upon as that team-oriented guy. I had this perception of me that just wasn't true. And through my course of diving in and growing every single year, I've proven myself to be who I am. And I think that is the greatest compliment that someone can give you, is that you're truly who you are, despite the character or the giggles. I think if you ask any of my teammates, any of my coaches, who I am, they would say Jameis is truly who he is.
I just love that clip. Jameis Winston is Popeye. I'm not gonna be racist, but he's the black Popeye. I am what I am. I just love Jameis Winston. Like I said, Jameis Winston, all of his teammates love him in the locker room, but he did wear out his welcome in Tampa because of all the interceptions. He wore out his welcome at the end of his tenure in Cleveland. He wore out his welcome at the end of the tenure in New Orleans. They love him in the locker room, but like I said, he is always 5 interceptions away from being benched, and usually those 5 interceptions come in the first quarter. But you gotta love Jameis. Like I said, you gotta love him for the personality that he is as a football player right now. I'm just gonna leave it alone at that. But as like I said, as a football player, I'm gonna leave it alone. As a personality, I think he's good for the locker room. If we end up carrying 3 quarterbacks, it's probably gonna be him, of course, Russell starting, and Jackson Dart. But like I said, you got to give Jameis all the credit in the world. We have some new stuff coming up in the next few weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for that. There's actually I'm launching a brand new, and I've talked about it briefly on the streams. I'm launching a brand new New York Giants podcast. Not that I'm going to stop doing online Big Blue and New York Giants Straight Talk, but I think in some regards, we need to start taking looks at things from a different perspective. So we're going to have another podcast. I don't know if it's going to be on YouTube yet, but we have another podcast where we've already recorded the first episode. The second episode is being recorded tomorrow. Once we hit that magic number of 3, we are going to turn around and launch it, and possibly launch it on the Believe Network as well. So a lot of fun stuff coming up, guys. We might do a nighttime live stream. Someone asked me, they say, Tim, you do these live streams at these weird hours. And I said, yeah, we kind of do. So they asked me, if I could do like an 8:30, 9 o'clock live stream at night, because there's some people in California that want to join. So we're going to probably try to maybe do that this week as well. And as always, don't forget to like, Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'll be awesome.